Welcome back. I'm Tedward, and welcome to the 2022 BMW X3M competition, compliments of Boston Motorsports in Brighton, Massachusetts. This one's painted in Sao Paulo yellow, or as most of you will just consider it, highlighter yellow, because it is bright. This looks like you are highlighting your history textbook, and that's really fun because it deserves it. This has a twin-turbo inline-six, making 503 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds. Maybe not today in 32-degree weather on all-seasons tires, but we'll do our best. And it's a proper M car, because I did say twin-turbo. This has an S58 inline-six, not the B58. So the S designations for those non-M files means that it's a proper M engine. So the M3s and the M5s of the past always got, S52s, S54s, S62s, S65s, that whole deal. So this is a proper M engine. And what's very strange about this is this S58 first appeared on the X3. It was released to the market in the X3 before the S58 came out in the M3 and M4. So I always thought that was very strange, but fitting, because BMW has gone SUV crazy. And although their designs have not been my favorite, this X3M competition actually really looks the part. It's not quite as bucktooth as the 7 Series or even the M4, but let's just appreciate it for how it is. Gluing it to the road up front is a 255 section tire. In the rear, a 265 section tire. It's all-wheel drive, so it doesn't need to have quite a massive stagger. It can do some work with these front wheels. We've got some big brakes in the front and rear, and this is designed to be quite the little spirited monster. In fact, it's faster than the 2016 M3, so do not look at one of these and assume that it's just a slouch with M badges on it. It actually gets the job done. So here's the benefit, though. It's wildly practical. And despite having its proper quad tip exhaust, it can also fit all of your things, your life, your family, the dog, whatever needs to be moved, because it is a really fast people mover. The interior is lovely. Pardon the snow and sleet right now. The interior is really nice, and you get this nice carbon fiber detail, and then when we get going, you'll start to see the ambient lighting. This leather, I'm going to put the name of it below because I don't remember what it's called, but this is a really lovely color, and when you go outside and you see the highlighter yellow, you assume the interior is going to be insane. Well, guess what? This is actually really classy. It's like a reverse Aston Martin. Typically, Aston Martins are insane on the inside and subdued on the outside. Let's take a quick peek under the hood. There she is, our S58. Not much to see here in new car fashion, but I find it very strange that to get to that oil filler cap, that is quite a big dive into that plastic. But hey, who am I to judge? I'm sure there's a good German engineering reason for that. We've also got the M mirrors, so, it fits all the bills of a proper M car. So let's get in and go for a drive, because it's yucky outside and I'm sick of standing out there. Typical BMW sounds that give me straight up heart attacks, because BMWs make the same noise for everything, whether it's, ooh, it might snow, or it might be cold, or your engine just blew up. It's the same sound. This tint, not my favorite. I think if I bought this car, this is the first thing to go, but who knows, maybe this car came from Arizona or something, and when it's super hot and sunny, I totally get it. I love the ambient lighting. I always choose lavender when I'm in a BMW. I dig that. And then we've got our M-style seatbelts, of course, because you just got to put those colors on everything when you're in an M car. Of course, in the steering wheel as well, the threaded interior. Now, the steering wheel, we'll talk about this as we go, but it's just too thick. BMW needs to cool it with some of this stuff, but they don't need to cool it with these lovely heated steering wheels, because it does feel really good on a winter day. I like that there are physical buttons for this HVAC system, because I can just quickly jump into my heated or cooled seats very fast. And it turns out you can put your ventilated seat and your heated seat on at the same time. Good deal. We like that. Now, I had an E92 M3. There were not very many options for setting things up in that car. You had a power button, you had your variable suspension if you had the option. Now, it's a little confusing. You've got M mode here, you've got M1 here, M2 here, your exhaust, your setup. It can be difficult for a non-BMW driver at this point, other than my M5, which is very old, it's an E39, to jump in here and know exactly what to do. So I think I'm just gonna do steering on sport, and we'll do the thing. Let's go take it out for a drive, see how it operates, and enjoy ourselves. Ooh, I should probably put this parking brake down. That's a good call, huh? Love having a rear wiper. First thing you notice, this suspension can get a bit crashy. Let's knock that into comfort mode. And even in comfort mode, this ain't no Range Rover. Let's put it that way. If you're buying this car, you better be okay with feeling the road, because there's really no other option. Let's just roll on and see what she does off the line. A fast car. This is a very quick car. Off the line, this is an animal. I mean, it's great that I can't believe I'm saying this. It's great that M cars are all-wheel drive now, because at this point, when you're working with this kind of power, you really need those front wheels activated in order to keep things stable. Knocking my wires around. Okay, we need to like chill out on this transmission mode. Easy, partner. I think the M2 mode is really wild. So to have all-wheel drive in these cars now, I think makes a big difference in just getting them moving, because BMWs were starting to get more torque. It used to be the AMG cars were the torquey monsters that were the burnout machines. And then as turbos started entering the chat, that just was no longer the case. These cars were making massive power and they were just going sideways, and people were having a hard time controlling them. Also, BMW started moving towards less desirable steering characteristics. That, you couldn't feel as much through the wheel, and it made the cars feel a lot more sketchy in those sort of F10 days. Today, now that you've got improved steering since then, but all-wheel drive is definitely helping keeping these feeling safe and together and planted. Why are you in manual mode? There we go. Okay. See, I feel like I have a little bit of setting overload on this car, and it's sometimes difficult to recognize what settings it's even in. I'll find that like, oh, it's holding my gear, great. Then I'm like, wait a minute, it's in manual mode, and it's not going to upshift for me. It's just going to nail that rev limiter. That's a little frustrating. So I think, for someone who really likes gadgets and settings, this will be not a problem. This will be fun. If you're like me, where you're just like, just give me a manual transmission and like a button that firms up the suspension, that's pretty much as I'm willing to do in a car that I own, unless it's incredibly simplistic. This 8-speed ZF is pretty responsive, so I'm going to get it in throttle a little bit. Not a terrible delay between pedal travel, downshift, and acceleration. Love to see some dedicated runners. Today's my rest day. I'm not going to be out here in the sleet and the snow. But I am visible. I think this is like fun to have such a bright BMW. Every BMW owner is like silver, black, white. Like white is the most exotic color most BMW owners go for. I'm really glad that we're getting some ridiculous colors. Not only just to spice up the driveway, but I'm so bored of the stereotype of the executive German car. These cars do deserve a little bit of life and love. So purples, greens, yellows, things like that really amp me up. Okay, we're going over some bumps here. Oh, now, to be fair, I'm in the Sport Plus chassis mode right now, so it should be stiff. But this is pretty stiff, guys. Like, this car is pretty stiff. We'll just put it at that. Like the brakes. Michelin All Seasons doing a little bit of work for me in this yucky, somewhat cold, slushy sort of weather. And we're going to be gentlemen. Oh, all right, he's coming over. So indicators are good, guys. I don't want to be the stereotypical BMW driver. I would like to use my indicators, blinkers as we call them in New England. But funny enough, I'm noticing no one around me using their blinkers, or at least not signaling what they're going to do later. So on the highway, let's just go into like normal people mode. Okay, I guess I can do that with that button. This is where I'm getting frustrated, where there are so many modes, there are so many settings, and it's not even that complicated. It's just that like setting them, there's 5 different ways to set them up. Some real big pros for this car. These seats are phenomenal. They have a lot of adjustability. They have great lumbar support. I'm pretty skinny, so I fit these really well. Although they do conform to pretty much anybody because they're so adjustable. We've got a much more subdued X here, the X5. He's checking it out. He's like, all right, I see you. But to have such an aggressive looking seat that's still very comfortable and supportive as a daily driver and as a performance seat, that's great. That's what you want. You want something that's going to support you. You want something that's going to keep you in line when you chuck this thing into some corners, because you're going to. If you're buying this car and you don't actually like to have fun driving on some back roads, then you're just wasting your money. You can do cheaper options. What's wild about this X3M competition is just the fact that it pretty much outperforms like M3 and M4s of the last generation. Like it is a fast vehicle, and not only fast in a straight line, incredibly capable in the corners. So let's go explore that a little bit. Auto start stop. Oh, did we just sense an auto start stop flaw where the windshield wipers got stuck in the middle? Oh, we're exposing it all today. It's incredible how confidence inspiring this is. What's odd too is that I'm not like sat super low. This still feels like an SUV. In fact, when you first get in it, because it's kind of stiff, I felt like I was sitting on top of the car. I felt like, ooh, it's a little roly-poly. But once you actually commit to some corners, it's remarkably flat and remarkably stable. You can tell that it wants to, bring the tail around a little bit. I think if I owned one of these, I would need to do a track day in it. I would need to go explore these limits of this, because it is as capable as any M product I've ever driven. All right, let's go find out how this is going to deal with your daily commute. I'm going to knock everything into comfort mode. We're going to go down some normal country back roads with some bumps and lumps, not all the perfection. Definitely feeling it. This could get old for some people, because I do think this is stiffer maybe even than my E92 M3, and people referred to that as a stiff car. Now things have changed. People seem to be really like accepting of incredibly rigid cars now. So maybe this is fair, and there's an E46 M3 ahead. I'd love to see a daily driven winter E46 M3 in good shape. Looks like, can't tell what color yet. It's dark. Maybe Interlagos? Sure, Interlagos. Cool. Now that was a softer car than this, I believe. But what I find is that you're not just buying an X3. You're not just buying an X3M. You're buying an X3M competition. And that's where they're kind of allowed to do whatever they want. You know, if you're complaining that it's stiff, it's like, well, then don't buy this one. That's the point. This car is purpose-built for this reason, to be some sort of wolf in sheep's clothing that is remarkably capable dynamically, and it is. So I think it's a little unfair for me to dog on it for being rigid and stiff. It's just that it needs to be pointed out as a sort of like buyer beware. Just because it has a comfort mode doesn't mean you will be comfortable. It's all relative. And there, I put it in M1. I forgot that M1 goes to manual shifting mode, and I was expecting the car to shift for me. That's where there's just like a little bit of confusion between me and the car. Maybe that's just adaptability, but I am gonna say that like there are somewhat more intuitive methods of doing this. And while I think that having, let's say, this screen maybe is what I needed to have up, because then it's telling me instead of D5, it's just in 5. You know, that's the deal. That's where we're at. So it's a wintry mix, I suppose, what we call it in New England, where there's a little bit of sleet, a little bit of rain, a little bit of snow. Nothing is sticking except the impression that this X3M competition is making on me is going to stick, because I'm really enthralled and impressed. I mean, I'm not an SUV guy. I don't know if you'll find me buying an SUV that isn't like an Overlander. But I must say, the idea that an X3 can outperform M3s of just its, you know, past generation is wild. And it's very cool that to get the new M3 engine, your first taste of it would have been in an X3. Kind of wild. So thank you to Boston Motorsports for tossing me the keys to this very loud colored X3M competition. Thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing, joining the Patreon, all of the things. Please engage. Please let me know what you think of these types of cars. I don't know that this is my future, but I sure am glad there's inline-6 twin turbos that can get the job done and probably surprise a lot of folks on a racetrack. Pretty nuts. Is that a Lightning? Yes, it is. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one.